Hello everyone and welcome to yet another DaVinci Resolve tutorial. What we're going to do today? Screen replacements. So I've got two scenarios. We've got this footage here of a lady scrolling through their phone on a picnic. The camera dollies out. There's a bit of movement, lateral movement, a little bit of a rotation. This phone wiggles a little bit there, okay? And then the second one starts off with a full green screen, rotates out to a motion graphics scenario, and then zooms right back in. We've got like a grungy texture on top of the green screen. So these are the two screens we're going to replace today. Let's start with this first one. We're going to go over to our Fusion page. First thing we're going to do is we're going to detach the media in from the background, from the media out. I'm going to put a background, and I'm just going to make it a bright blue, just so it's obvious if I've got holes in my scene. We're going to take the media in and slap it on top of the background. Reason I do this is we're going to be removing green. There's green up here. There's green on this lemon. There might be green elsewhere. So if we're too aggressive, we might remove green out of our grass, out of these strawberries and so on. And with the blue, we'll be able to quickly see it without even going to the alpha channel. So we've got a couple of tools that we can use to do keying. I'm going to shift space. That'll bring up my select tool. I'm going to type in key. We've got the 3D key here. I'm going to add them all here, so just so we can take a look at them. We've got the chroma key here. We've got the delta key here, which is my favorite. We've got 3D chroma delta. We've got the ultra key here. And they all serve the same purpose. Their job is to remove green screen or blue screen. Or any other color. It's just those are the two easiest ones to remove. If we take a look, we'll take a look at the 3D key here. 3D key here is kind of cool because how you do it is you select a green color by doing a stroke, and you can add multiple strokes. This is really good if you've got like a really crappy green screen that's been badly lit or has folds, and you've got different shades of green in the back. This will help you select more green to remove. But in this case, we've only got like this green, so it should be pretty easy. So if I grab this, right? Boom. I've selected this. It's only selected this. It's got a little bit of a fringe, but then I should be able to use the despill. And let's see what that gave us. Now, you look at this, it's like, hey, yeah, my screen's undone. But because we had to go and remove a lot of spill, well, we've lost all the green in the grass. It's now wasteland. We've lost a lot of green here. We can see this a bit more clearly if we go and take a look at the alpha channel of the key. So you see, we've taken that out, but now we've lost all the green here. It doesn't show in the mask, but it's still gone. So if I take a look, for example, and I turn this off, you see we've lost all the green there. So if I bring this in smudge, we should see a bit of blue poking through, right? So this is bad. We don't want that. We've got an easy way to deal with this. We've got here the effect mask. So we could just grab a rectangle, bring that in, and what this rectangle is saying, 3D key here, only do your job within this rectangle. Don't remove green from anywhere else, just within this rectangle. And we don't have to be super precise because there's no green right around the phone. The problem is the phone does move around and changes sizes a bit, so we have to keyframe position and scale or dimensions. So we could do this manually by setting a keyframe on center, height, and width, and then adjusting it like this and like that, and then going a bit, going to the end, and then adjusting the center, and then maybe making it a little less big so it doesn't work on areas outside the phone too much. And then we just scroll through, make sure it always stays within. It doesn't. So around here, we're going to adjust the center again. We don't need to adjust the size because it's still within. And there we go. But we could also track could use these tracking markers to track and then have the rectangle automatically adjust itself, but it's not necessary for this. That's more useful for more complicated screens where the screen moves a bit more or deforms quite a bit more, or if it's for a longer scenario. But this works perfect. So now we've only removed the green out of the phone. Excellent. We've got other keys. If we take a look at the chroma key, so I'm just going to attach this to the chroma key, add that here, add that here, try that again, add that here. I'm going to disable this merge. There you go. And now what we can do is we can choose either chroma or color. So we're going to remove some green. Sorry, I meant chroma. So we're going to remove some green, opposite way. There you go. So it's removing all the green, removing all the green, removing all the green. And that looks pretty good. We're going to take a look at the alpha in a sec. Let's take a look at the alpha. If I click here, it's a little rough, but we can fix that. And we've taken out like a spot of green up in the corner. Let's scroll through. So yeah, you see we've lost a little bit of green in a couple places. Up in the upper right corner. It's not horrible, but it's not perfect. So if we bring this back in, what we could do is we could go to matte and we could change the threshold. No, that's not helping us. Maybe add a bit of a contractor. Yeah, let's add a bit of contract. Why is it not doing anything? It's very strange. None. So if we blur a little bit, it'll get rid of the jaggies. And then if we take a look, that looks pretty good, but we've lost a bit up here. So again, we could just use our rectangle mask here. Do the same thing. Bring this in, go back to color, and we've got, it's solved. So again, this is a pretty good key. There's a little bit of green still on the edges. I think this one was better than this one. You see there's still some spill, but you can work with that. Let's get rid of these, and let's bring in the Alt key. We're going to bring the Alt key in, merge that on top. And then with the Alt key, what we get to do is we can come and select the green that we want to remove. And look at that. We've again lost all our green up here. So again, we put on an effect mask and that would work. Works perfectly fine. You've got a bit more control over things like the matte and stuff like that, but it's still way cleaner than the chroma key. See, there's no green fringe. It's very nice. Yeah, it looks very good. The next one that we could do is the one I use the most, is the, here, let's put that back in here, is the Delta keyer. Delta keyer is very much like the Ultra keyer, but has way more options, and that's why I prefer it. So you do the same thing. You choose a green color. Boom, we've lost all the colors, so I'm just gonna put that on the effect. It's back, but we've got like more tools for the pre-matte and the matte, and we've got like clean foreground and clean background. So if I go back over here, you see it's not a perfectly clean matte. Same thing with the Ultra key, it wasn't perfectly clean. So I could come in here with the clean background. Sorry, I meant clean foreground. No, it was clean background. It's not really doing a good job of it. Usually it does a really good job of removing that. So let's fix that up a bit. We're going to increase the gain. And there you go. Much cleaner. Could we have done this here? There's no gain in the Ultra keyer. Background correction could work. So similar tools. I just prefer the control I get with the Ultra keyer, the Delta keyer. So we've removed the green in very, multiple different ways. I'm going to delete these two. I'm just going to keep the Delta because, like I said, that's the one I prefer. But we're technically done with that anyways. I'm going to go back to my color view. Final. Excellent. Now, what we need to do is we need to put some footage in. Well, we're going to put the footage underneath this because there's a hole here. So I don't have to care about the image not fitting within the confines of the phone. And I also won't have to cut the finger out and add it back on top. So we're going to go and get some footage from my media pool. Let's find something here. Here, Nosferatu. Little black and white movie. Grab this. Oh, I keep doing that. Go back here. Close the media pool. And I'm just going to add the movie on top of the black background. Problem that you can see is it doesn't move with the camera movement. What we're going to need to do is we're going to need to track the motion of the camera. To do that, we've got a couple of different options. Shift space, and we're going to put tracker. We've got a couple trackers. Camera tracker is more to try to track a scene as if it was like a 3D scene. Planar tracker is to track points on a plane. Surface tracker is studio only, and what it does is it's more to help deform something. So let's say you had a logo and you wanted to put it on a shirt. You'd use the surface tracker, and the surface tracker would track a mesh on top of that surface. So as the surface moves and bunches up, it would bunch up the element that you're adding on top of it as if it was on top of that cloth that's being deformed. And then the point tracker. Point tracker, everybody has that. It has a couple of extra options if you've got studio. But that's the one I think, no, we're going to use the planar tracker because we're trying to track this one plane of this one area, right? So I'm going to use these point trackers, these markers. I'm going to slip this in here, and I'm going to tell it track this area. So I'm trying to grab all of these tracking points, and I'm trying to keep the finger out of there because the finger will cause some false tracking points. It's not a big deal. We could deal with that. Next thing we need to do is we are going to say, hey, this is our home frame. So I'm going to hit set. And what we're going to do is we're going to track translation, rotation, and scale. And we are going to track forward from here. And then we're going to go home. And we're going to track backwards. Oh, we had a little bit of a glitch there, potentially. No, it was just a visual glitch from DaVinci. That looks pretty solid. So it's created a bunch of tracking points, and it's going to use that. It uses that to determine scale, rotation, and all that. Cool thing with the planar tracker is then you can click here and create a planar transform. Planar transform basically has all that information into a transform, just like a normal transform node. Now, I can disconnect this because we don't need it anymore. And if we go forward, the footage is tracked perfectly to the planar tracker, to the phone, thanks to the planar tracker. Now, we do need to resize and position the actual clip. So I'm going to add a transform in between. And we're just going to resize that. And then, position it. I'm just going to disable my auto proxy. Reason for this is you'll notice when I'm moving something, everything goes blurry and gets misaligned. That's because of the auto proxy. So I'm just going to temporarily disable that. And I'm going to put the center of my film on the center marker here, and then resize that so it fits, and maybe rotate that just a smidge. There we go. So that should work now. Re-enable my auto proxy. Now her finger shows as if she's trying to scroll this down. It doesn't work really with a film. Like technically you'd want some footage, like some motion graphics where as the finger hits and moves downwards, they're pulling down like their feed on something or something like that. But that's an entirely different kettle of fish. Is that how you say it? Doesn't matter. So I'm going to now turn my background black. Reason for this is so that we've got like a black background for the black and white movie. And there we go. Okay, so next thing that we need to do is we need to remove these tracking markers. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab an ellipse and we're going to bring it into the garbage mat of the delta keyer. So we're going to say, this area here, it's garbage. Just get rid of it. So we're going to bring this in. I'm just going to remove the ellipse and we're going to put it on the center here. Like that. And then I'm going to copy this. We're going to an ellipse. We're going to paste. And we're going to grab that one and move it over here. And then Control V. Move it over here. Control V. Move it over here. And then the last one, we have a bit of a problem. This one we have a problem because, oh yeah, we have another problem. Give me 1 second. Okay, this is where, nope, this is not where we were. Close though. Okay, so the next problem that we have is this finger goes over that tracking marker a bit. Did I forget to add 1, 2, 3? Oh, I forgot the top one. Control copy, Control V. So I'm going to grab that one. I'm going to put it here. So one of the problems that we have is the finger is going to come over this part. So we have to do something a little different here. The other thing that we have is that this moves around, but we've got our planar tracker. So I'm going to copy this, paste it, put it right in here. And now I have to reposition everything. And put it here. Put it there. Put it here. And put it there. Okay, something's wrong with this one. Maybe I'll make it just a little bit bigger. Like that. That should be good. Yeah, perfect. Oh, that one's also slightly problematic. So let's bring this up a little bit. Perfect. That looks good. And down here we've got a bit of a problem. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Actually, let's make the center one a little bit bigger too, just to be safe. There we go. So I've added this to it, these points. And now because we've got the planar tracker, they'll follow along and should be pretty solid. Yep, so we've removed them. The one problem we have is this one, because there's one moment right here where the finger goes over the dot. Doesn't? And again right here. So there's two spots where the finger goes over the dot. So how are we going to deal with that? Well, one of the things we could do is we could come here and add a polygon. I'm going to add a polygon, and I'm just going to go to the point where the finger's on top. And we're going to do this. Like that. We have a keyframe on the position, not a position, but the size. And now as I move backwards, I'm going to come here and just grab this and move it here. And now as the finger comes in, oh, that's not fast enough. Like that. That's good, I think. Let's take no, it's not enough. Again, I'm going to take off my auto proxy so I can actually see what I'm doing. Like that. And as that finger moves, we're going to move this out. Here we need to move this in. Go back up. I'm just going to move that back out a little bit so it's not so close. And as the finger comes back down, we're going to move this down, go a couple frames. Move this. Move this in. And as they move back out, let's move this back out. Doom, doom, doom. Doom, doom, doom. And there we go. So now if we take a look at this full size and re-enable this and bring in our footage. That looks pretty good. The markers are out of the way now. So we've done our first screen replacement. Let's go and take a look at our second one. And like I said, normally what you'd normally do here is you'd have like some motion graphics where things move down as the person scrolls down, but that's an entirely different tutorial. Let's go to the second footage. So this one's kind of fun. We start off, we've got like this grungy texture on green, and then it zooms, dollies out, and has a little bit of a rotation. Then we've got some motion graphic stuff appearing. We've got a bit of fog in the foreground, and then it zooms back in, or dollies in. So let's get into it. Open Fusion page. Media out, disconnect this, bring a background. I'm going to make it red so it's easier to see. Put that on top. Now, we've got some variation, but we want to keep this grunge texture on it, right? It's there for a reason. It's kind of like a reflection on a TV. It makes it feel more real than if it was perfectly clean. So what we're going to do is we are going to shift space, and we're going to get our key. And I think I'm going to go with my delta. Good old delta. Put that in. We're going to go and get the green. That looks pretty good. Let's take a look at the color. Not the color, the alpha channel. What did I just do? Oh, I added a... There you go. Alpha channel. Okay, the alpha is very messy. But in this case, that's kind of normal. I don't like this messiness up here. But here, this is the fog passing in front. And here we can clearly see the texture that's on the screen. The grungy, like dirty texture on it. So we might have to just deal with that. Let's see what we can do here. If we go with our matte, if we clear the background a bit, yeah, no, that's not what we want. Yeah, I think that's just what we're going to have to deal with, because we don't want to remove that texture, and we've got all this variation of green. Let's see. Yeah, we don't want to pull too much of that out. I was kind of hoping to clean up these streaks because I don't know what they are. Nope. Because of the fog and the texture, we're going to have to deal with this being a little bit less than perfectly clean. But then again, the screen is not perfectly clean, so that makes sense. Why do I keep doing that? So if I go back to color, we can see our red. Perfect. Now, we've got a bit of a problem. How are we going to track this rotation and scale? Well, this is where that grungy texture is going to come in useful. It's great because we now have something that we can track. They're kind of like tracking markers, but they're built in. Unfortunately, we can't use the point tracker for this one because the point trackers are going to have issues trying to track this. But if we use, let's bring this back in, if we use the planar tracker, like we did in the other video, and we do the planar tracker and we kind of just track the whole screen, it's going to try to figure out tracking points from this grungy texture. Now we can probably help it a little bit. What we could also do is we could come here and add, let's say, a brightness and contrast. So I'm just going to boost the contrast. Would help if I was looking at the right thing. There you go. So I'm going to go back to my contrast and I'm going to boost the contrast. Or change the contrast. No, the contrast won't do it. There we go. I brought down the gain, and now if I bring up the contrast, it really makes that texture and all that. Oh, that is part of the screen, I guess. Interesting. It really makes that grungy texture pop out, which will help the planar tracker find more tracking markers. And then once we've done the tracking, we can just get rid of the brightness contrast. So back to this. set the home reference time to 14 and track forward. I'm fairly certain I said track forward. Track append fail. Okay, so we're going to set that back. And now we're going to track forward. Okay, I'm going to come back. I think I may need to restart DaVinci Resolve. It might not like the fact that I'm recording at the same time. I'll be right back. Okay, let's see if that worked. I just did a restart. It doesn't crash very often, DaVinci, but sometimes it gets a little confused. So let's go back to our planar tracker, bring that in, and we're going to go to our home, start tracking forwards. Why is it not tracking? Let's try it without the brightness and contrast. It didn't like the brightness and contrast for some reason, which is weird because I've used this technique before. It didn't like the brightness and contrast, but it looks like it was able to get plenty of tracking markers, but it went a little crazy. So we're going to try that again. Why didn't that work? Let's try it again. I'm going to come back here to beginning, and I'm going to set this as my home. Okay. And now if I go back in here, let's go and add a curves instead. And on my RGB, okay, so now set that, and we're going to track forward. Okay, this time it worked. I don't know, it wasn't working with the brightness and contrast. Okay, that looked a whole lot better. With our first track, this point actually was off screen. Now it's back to pretty much where it's supposed to be. I think we've got enough information here. Okay, we're going to have to go and set. We're going to have to do that one more time. I forgot to change the motion type from perspective to translation, rotation, and scale. So we're going to have to retrack it. There we go. Okay, that should be better. Now I can disable this, or I can even just delete it. So we've got our planar tracker. We're going to create a transform, just disconnect this. We're going to now grab our footage. Which will be under Media Pool, Nosferatu. Run it through the planar transform, slap it in here. Close the media, bring this in here. Next thing we need to do is we need to make this a bit bigger, so let's add a transform. Let's resize it until it's just a little bit outside the frame. And we're going to change our background to black. We still have the mist, which is perfect. Let's see what we've got. That's not half bad. I think we're going to make this transform just a little bit bigger, so it goes outside the frame. And you'll notice that the rotation's not correct, like the angle. So if I rotate it a tiny little bit, let's see what it looks like as we go in. Yeah, you see now it's crooked. So we're going to set a keyframe on rotation on our transform just to help the tracker, because the tracker had some issues. So right about here, we're going to set our angle, set a keyframe there. And then if I go back to beginning, I can just set that back. And now that should look pretty good. I still need to make it a tiny little bit bigger. Like that. That looks pretty good. Then as it comes in, it's nice because we still have that fog. If we take a look, we've still got that grungy texture on there, which is really nice. Okay, so we're going to go back to just before it starts moving forward. Right there. We're going to set a keyframe on our angle. And then as it comes in, right about here, we're going to make another keyframe and adjust the rotation to pretty much 0, right? Like that. So now what does it look like? Do I have to proxy on? Yes, perfect. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm also going to cheat a tiny little bit. I'm going to grab my background and I'm going to make it the same gray as the screen. There we go. And there's our screen replacement. Got a little bit of jank, but it's looking pretty good. And those are our two scenarios. Hopefully this will help you guys with your future projects. There's way more to consider with screen replacements. These were actually quite easy. Some of them change the perspective of the screen. Not just rotation, but the angle of the screen can change, which requires you to change the perspective of your footage that goes underneath it. Sometimes also you'll also need to add back in glass reflections, things of that nature. Sometimes you'll have to mask out things that are passing in front. You might not have a green screen for your replacement, but just like a black screen, that can also work. But it's a different, it's a completely different method. So if you guys are looking for information on how to do that, leave a comment down below, and maybe we'll take a look at some more screen replacements with slightly more challenging screens to be replaced. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.